The first thing I noticed was the silence. It was a silence so profound that it felt almost tangible, wrapping around me like a heavy, suffocating blanket. Our home, usually alive with the comforting hum of background noise, the chatter of the television, the distant hum of the refrigerator, the faint creaks and groans of an old house settling into the night, was eerily quiet. The TV, which normally blared the evening news at this hour, stood blank and lifeless, an oversized paperweight in the corner of the room. As I stepped inside, the only sound was the soft rustle of fabric as she shifted in the big armchair, the one my father always used, like a regal throne in our modest living room. There, she sat with her legs crossed, a glass of whiskey precariously perched on the armrest, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. The room was dimly lit, the last rays of the setting sun filtering through the sheer curtains, casting long shadows that danced across the floor. The air was cool, carrying with it the faint scent of lavender, my mother's favorite air freshener, mingling with the sharper, more intoxicating aroma of the whiskey in Rachel's glass. It was a scene that felt both intimately familiar and disturbingly foreign, a tableau of domesticity turned on its head. "I like the view from here," she said in a voice that slid like velvet into the silence. Her words were smooth, almost hypnotic, the kind of voice that could lull you into a false sense of security even as it hinted at secrets best left untold. Her eyes, a deep, endless blue, caught mine and held them with a weight that felt almost tangible, a magnetic pull that was both unsettling and alluring. "My name is Alex Carter. I'm 28, a freelance graphic designer, currently navigating the choppy waters of uncertainty after a breakup that had left me adrift, emotionally untethered, as if the ground beneath my feet seemed to shift with every step. My life had become a series of unpredictable moments, each one a puzzle piece that no longer fit into the picture I had imagined. But nothing prepared me for the sight of Rachel, my mother's friend, occupying the space that belonged to my father as if she had always been there, as if the universe had conspired to place her in that chair at that exact moment. Rachel was in her early 40s, a woman who carried herself with the kind of confidence that lit up a room, a presence that was impossible to ignore. She had an aura about her, an air of mystery and allure that seemed to draw people in, a gravitational force that was both captivating and dangerous. She was my mother's confidant, the neighbor who lived 2 doors down, often seen gliding through her garden with an air of effortless grace, her presence as much a part of the landscape as the flowers she tended with loving care. Tonight, she wore a simple black dress that clung to her figure, accentuating the curves that hinted at a life well lived. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders in waves, catching the dying light and turning it into a halo of shimmering highlights. The atmosphere around her was charged, electric, as if she were the eye of a storm that threatened to break at any moment, a force of nature contained within the confines of our living room. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt, the words emerging from my throat with more bravado than conviction. The question hung in the air between us, a challenge, a plea, a desperate attempt to understand the reality that seemed to have shifted in her presence. She studied me for a moment, her gaze piercing and unyielding, before patting her thigh, a silent invitation or perhaps a test to see how far she could push, how much I was willing to risk. "I've always wondered what you look like when you think no one is watching," she said, her voice laced with a hint of amusement, as if she were privy to some private joke, a game that only she knew the rules to. A shiver ran down my spine, the kind that comes with the realization that someone has been observing you unnoticed, their eyes tracing your movements, your habits, your secrets. "How long have you been here?" I asked, stepping further into the room, the door clicking shut behind me with a finality that seemed to seal us in together, 2 players in a drama unfolding in the shadows. "Long enough," she replied, her eyes never leaving mine, her gaze unflinching, unwavering. "Your mother asked me to water the plants while she's away. I thought I'd take a break." Her words hung in the air, a thin veil over the truth we both sensed lurking beneath, a truth that seemed to pulse in the spaces between her words, in the silence that wrapped around us like a cocoon. I knew my parents were out of town, a last-minute trip to visit my sister, a trip that had left the house empty, vulnerable, a stage set for something unexpected. I wasn't supposed to be home until later, but something had drawn me back early, a whisper, a premonition, a sense that the night held more than the usual routine. Now, as Rachel sat in my father's chair, the boundaries of our interaction blurred, the line between propriety and desire wavering like a mirage, a shifting illusion in the heat of the moment. "Is this some kind of game?" I asked, moving to the edge of the room, the distance between us feeling both vast and non-existent, a chasm that could be crossed with a single step, a single word. "It doesn't have to be," she replied, her voice soft, almost a whisper. A siren's call in the quiet of the room, a promise and a warning wrapped in silk. The air was thick with unspoken words, possibilities that lingered in the shadows, waiting to be acknowledged, explored, shattered. I could see the challenge in her eyes, the dare to step closer, to see how far this could go before it unraveled, before it shattered the fragile veneer of normalcy that we clung to like a lifeline. Yet, beneath it all was a sense of danger, the knowledge that one wrong move could unravel everything, could tip the delicate balance of our lives into chaos. I took a step forward, then another, until I was close enough to catch the faint scent of her perfume, something floral with a hint of spice, a fragrance that seemed to linger in the air, wrapping around me, drawing me in despite every rational thought screaming at me to stop, to turn away. "You shouldn't be here," I said again, though my words lacked conviction, a plea that even I didn't believe. "Neither should you," she countered, a wry smile playing on her lips, a challenge, a dare, a truth that cut through the fabric of our interaction, laying bare the choices we had yet to make. We were teetering on the edge, the precipice of something that felt both forbidden and inevitable, a dance that we had begun without knowing the steps, a melody that played in the silence, guiding us toward an unknown future. I could feel the warmth of her presence, the magnetic pull that seemed to draw me in, the temptation that whispered of what could be if only I dared to reach out and take it, the promise and peril of a path untraveled. "Rachel," I began, but my voice faltered, the weight of her gaze silencing me, the words turning to ash on my tongue, a plea, a question, an acknowledgement of the tension that crackled between us like a live wire. "Alex," she replied, a hint of amusement in her tone, a soft, intimate murmur that seemed to wrap around my name, transforming it into something new, something dangerous. "You're not afraid, are you?" Her question cut through the silence, a challenge wrapped in curiosity, a dare masked in concern. Was I afraid? Yes, of what this could mean, of the consequences that loomed like shadows in the corners of my mind, specters waiting to pounce. But there was also an undeniable allure, a temptation that whispered of what could be if only I dared to reach out and take it, a promise of something more, something beyond the ordinary. The moment stretched between us, a taut wire vibrating with tension, a line that seemed to hum with the possibilities of what lay ahead. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, a steady drumbeat that matched the rhythm of the possibilities unfolding before me, a symphony of potential playing in the silence. But just as the moment seemed poised to tip over into something irreversible, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway shattered the silence, a discordant note in the symphony, a reminder of the reality that awaited us. Rachel's eyes flickered to the window, her expression shifting, the spell between us momentarily broken, the tension dissipating like smoke in the wind. "Your father's home early," she said, a note of surprise in her voice, a hint of something else lurking beneath the surface, a question, a revelation. The reality of the situation crashed over me, the precariousness of our interaction laid bare, the fragile balance of what we had become teetering on the edge. "You need to go," I said, urgency threading through my words, a plea, a command, a realization that the moment we had shared was slipping away, a dream fading in the harsh light of day. She stood, smoothing her dress, her demeanor shifting back to the composed, untouchable woman I'd always known, a mask slipping into place, the armor of normalcy shielding her from the truth we had glimpsed. "This isn't over, Alex," she said, her voice carrying a promise or perhaps a threat, a vow that echoed in the silence, a reminder of the path we had begun to tread. As she slipped past me, her hand brushed against mine, a fleeting contact that sent a jolt through my body, a spark that lingered long after she had gone, a reminder of the choices we had yet to make. I watched her leave, the door closing softly behind her, the silence rushing back in to fill the space she had occupied, a void that seemed to echo with the memory of her presence. The front door opened, and my father's footsteps echoed through the hallway, a familiar rhythm that seemed suddenly foreign, a reminder of the world that existed beyond the silence. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the tumult of emotions swirling within me, the chaos of my thoughts, the cacophony of possibilities that seemed to reverberate in the silence. The room felt different now, as if Rachel's presence had altered something fundamental, leaving behind an undercurrent of tension that refused to dissipate, a reminder of the choices that lay ahead. "Alex, you're home early?" my father said, appearing in the doorway, his expression one of mild surprise, a familiar face in an unfamiliar world, a touchstone in the chaos. "Yeah, I just needed some air," I replied, forcing a smile as I moved to greet him. The words a lie that slipped easily from my lips, a mask that I wore with practiced ease. He nodded, seemingly unaware of the charged atmosphere, his gaze sweeping over the room before settling on the armchair, the throne that had been usurped, the symbol of a world that had shifted. "I think I'll have a drink," he said, moving to the bar cart in the corner, a ritual that seemed suddenly foreign, a routine that had been altered. As he poured himself a glass of whiskey, I felt the weight of Rachel's lingering presence, the unspoken understanding that had passed between us, the promise of something more, something dangerous. My father turned, raising his glass in a silent toast before taking a sip, a gesture that seemed to echo in the silence, a reminder of the world that had been. "How was your day?" he asked, settling into his chair, the one Rachel had vacated only moments before, the throne reclaimed, the balance restored. "Uneventful," I replied, the lie slipping easily from my lips, a mask that I wore with practiced ease, a shield against the truth that lurked beneath the surface. He nodded, seemingly satisfied, and returned his attention to the drink in his hand, the conversation falling into familiar patterns, the kind that had played out countless times before, a routine that seemed suddenly foreign, a ritual that had been altered. Yet beneath the surface, something had shifted, the balance of my world subtly altered by the encounter with Rachel, the promise of something more shimmering in the silence. As the evening wore on, I found my thoughts drifting back to her, the memory of her eyes, her voice, the way she had occupied the space that was never meant for her, the promise of something more, something dangerous. The boundaries of our relationship had been redrawn, the lines blurred, the stakes raised, the promise of something more shimmering in the silence. I spent the following days in a state of restless anticipation, the memory of Rachel's presence lingering like an echo in my mind, a shadow that seemed to follow me through the routine of my days, a reminder of the choices that lay ahead. I found myself looking for her in the usual places, the grocery store, the park where she often jogged, the places that had become familiar, the routine that had been altered. Each time, my heart would quicken with both hope and dread, the question of what I would say if I saw her again hanging unanswered in the air. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. The opportunity came one evening as I returned home from a long walk, the sky painted with the colors of a setting sun, the horizon a canvas of fire and gold. She was there, in her garden, tending to the flowers with the same careful attention she brought to everything she did. A ritual that seemed suddenly foreign, a routine that had been altered. I paused at the gate, my heart pounding in my chest as I watched her, the familiar mix of hesitation and desire swirling within me. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. She looked up, her eyes meeting mine across the distance that felt both vast and insignificant. A chasm that could be crossed with a single step, a single word. A smile touched her lips, and she straightened, wiping her hands on a cloth before making her way over to where I stood. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "Hello, Alex," she said, her voice warm and inviting. A siren's call in the quiet of the evening. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "Rachel?" I replied, unable to keep the smile from my own face. A mask slipping away, a choice yet to be made. "I didn't expect to see you." Her gaze held mine, the unspoken understanding from that night passing between us once more. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "I've been thinking about you," she admitted, her words sending a thrill through me. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "About what happened?" I asked, the question weighted with the implications of what lay between us. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "Yes," she replied, her eyes never leaving mine. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "And about what didn't happen?" The air between us crackled with the tension of unspoken possibilities, the memory of that night vivid in my mind. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "I don't know where this goes," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "Neither do I," she said, stepping closer, her presence enveloping me in its warmth. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "But I'd like to find out." There was a vulnerability in her words, an openness that mirrored my own uncertainty. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. The fear of what we stood to lose battled with the desire to explore the connection that had sparked between us. The path that lay ahead shrouded in both risk and promise. A choice yet to be made. I took a deep breath, the decision forming in the quiet spaces between heartbeats. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. "I'd like that too," I said, the words a quiet acknowledgement of the new reality we were stepping into. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. Her smile widened, a beacon of hope in the gathering twilight. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. We stood there for a moment, the world around us fading into the background as we acknowledged the fragile dynamic that had emerged from the shadows of that night. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the first stars appearing in the darkening sky, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The uncertainty of the future softened by the knowledge that we were in this together. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. Our relationship had been redefined, the boundaries redrawn, but there was a stability in the acceptance of what we had become. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. The path ahead was uncharted, the destination unknown, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope, the promise of something more shimmering on the horizon. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made. And as we stood side by side, the silence around us filled with the unspoken understanding of two souls willing to face whatever came next together. A promise, a threat, a choice yet to be made.